Welcome everyone to the theme of May on the Kriya Yoga Online YouTube channel. And our theme is going to focus on mastering your states of consciousness, having good capacity to assess your states of consciousness. Now, the first step in mastering your states of consciousness, the thing you need most of all, is a camel hair jacket. No, but seriously. I decided to wear this little get-up, taking me back to when I was in charge of a meditation center and I was required to wear a shirt and tie, which I don't particularly enjoy that often. Way back when I first started giving lectures at Unity churches, after I was ordained to teach Kriya Yoga, I didn't have a suit, and one of the things my teacher at the time said to me was, well, make sure that you wear a suit. I thought to myself, a suit? I don't have a suit. But I didn't say anything, and I went and looked at suits, and I saw, wow, suits can be expensive. So, interestingly enough, I decided, I don't have the money, but I'm going to go ahead and get one anyway, because I'm supposed to. And sure enough, I started thinking to myself, okay, this is all right, this will work out. It's probably good to have a suit. I started kind of rethinking, doing the thoughts within my mind that I had around dressing up and looking proper. And sure enough, the funny thing is that when I taught or gave the lecture at the Unity Church, the first one I ever did, and then I did a class afterwards on Kriya Yoga, the amount that the church gave me to speak, as well as the amount of the donations from the class, equated exactly to the cost of the suit. So that was one of the first experiences I had where I realized that by learning to change my thoughts or be aware of my thoughts and be aware of my inner states of consciousness, that it's possible it could be reflected in reality. That was a very clear experience because it was so exact. It was exactly the cost of the suit, which was good, helped me pay off that credit card bill. So first of all, what do we need to do? We need to learn to be accurate in assessing and reviewing our states of consciousness. And how do we do that? It's very simple. You just pay attention to yourself, the things you think, the way you feel. Who are you? Or at least, how do you define yourself to be in this little body that you've got going on? And you write those things down. How do you typically feel? Good, bad, anxious, angry, cheated, wealthy, happy, whatever it might be, well taken care of. And what you'll typically find is that your experiences reflect or are mirrored by what's going on internally. So for this month, I'd recommend getting a journal and spending some time once a day just journaling on how you felt this day, the things you've thought about. And I mean everything, the littlest details, to where you were irritated about someone, or you were happy to have an interaction with someone, or you felt like you were being well supported, or whatever it might be. You want to write down all these things, how you feel about yourself. And after you do this for a week or two, this will give you a fairly accurate idea of what your inner state of consciousness is as a individualized aspect of divinity, the infinite consciousness, this individualized aspect, which is your personality, your sense of self, who you think you are. And meditation is very helpful here because it allows you to develop detachment, because it's really difficult to see who you are because you think you're right. You think that all the things that you think and the way you feel are they're validated by your experience. But if you start to get detachment, that gives you a little bit of capacity to see, maybe I'm not all of these thoughts. Maybe I'm not this body. Maybe I'm not this personality, which makes it easier for you as you get towards the end of the month to make changes. Because if you're deeply invested in something, the less likelihood you're going to change it. So if you're deeply invested in the way you think and the way you are, the less likelihood you're going to want to change it. So remember the contemplation practice from March. If you don't know that, we'll go back to the video for March this year. And one thing that you can do is contemplate, well, who do I think I am? and you write down your preferences. You write down the things you like to do. You write down the way you think, the way you feel about other people. And you want to do this without judgment, because you're trying to get an accurate sense of how do you really feel about people? How do you really feel about finances? How do you really feel about health? How do you really feel about the world in general? You feel it's a wicked place that you need to escape from? Do you feel like we're stuck in the Kali Yuga and there's darkness all around you? Or do you see positive changes within the world? Do you see positive growth and consciousness becoming more expansive, more holistic in its approach to medicine and science? All these are going to give you a sense of who you are internally. So you need to contemplate, who do I think I am? Or who is this personality? And what are the things that support this personality? And those are your thoughts, your feeling states. Now, once you have a sense of how you are internally, how you feel about things, how you think about things, then this will occur, we'll say in the third week of May. So set up the schedule so you're paying attention the first 2 weeks of May, and then the final weeks of May, you're actually making the changes. Now you need to consciously decide to think and do things differently. Meaning that if you tend to feel anxious or mistreated, then you say to yourself, I'm treated very well. I'm not anxious at all. I feel good and confident. And that's going to feel really hard because you're so used to feeling the way you are. But if you start to change and acknowledge and affirm that you feel well treated, it may take a little while for the external to catch up, for it to actually start showing you those results. But as long as you can do it, even in the face of no immediate change, if you can keep doing it, then you're starting to turn the wheel of your car to go in a different direction. And eventually you'll start to see a different avenue, and you'll start to see, oh, wait a minute, so-and-so did treat me well. I did feel good this, yesterday morning, whatever it might be. You start to notice these positive experiences, and then you start putting more attention towards those. So you want to pick one thing that you want to consciously change. For example, do you feel like it's possible for you to practice meditation well? Tell yourself it is. Affirm it is. What would you feel like if you could practice it well? You'd feel good. You'd feel like, sure, this is no problem. You just do it. You wouldn't think, oh, I'm a poor spiritual seeker, and maybe one day I'll have an awakening experience, and if only I was perfect and loved everybody and ate sattvic food only, and it can go on, all the things that you're setting up for yourself that you have to do in order to experience clarity of awareness or a good meditation. Just tell yourself now, I experience good, clear meditation. And then those things that will support your meditation, whether it's sattvic food, better, more supportive people in your life, those things will start to come in. If they don't come in, then you don't need them to experience clear meditation. So decide on one or two things that you have noticed within your thought patterns, within your feeling patterns, that you want to start changing. And one thing I like to do, again, going back to the idea of prayer in February's talk, is don't just make it for you. Meaning if you want to feel more supported by other people, think to yourself, okay, I do feel more supported, and that allows me to support others. And feel how good that is. Think how good that would feel to be able to do that. Financially speaking, if you need some more finances, you can think to yourself, I am in the flow financially. I do have plenty of resources, and I can help to support my economy. I can help to support those people around me. So you don't feel bad about tipping the waitress, or you don't feel bad about buying gas or groceries. You think to yourself, no, this is worth it because I'm supporting the economy. So we need to be very subtle in regards to how we approach changing our consciousness. For example, here in Asheville, we are blessed to have very good grocery stores. We've got 2 Whole Foods, an Earth Fare, a lot of natural co-ops, so organic food, healthy food, farm-raised meat, whatever it might be that's considered good for you today, is available. But every time you go to one of those stores, I don't know about you, but you end up paying like 4 times as much as you would if you went to a regular grocery store. And I can remember thinking to myself, stressing out about how I wanted to be healthy, but geez, I have to pay so much for it. So I changed my thoughts. I noticed that. And I said, no, I'm happy to support these stores that provide good, wholesome food. I'm happy to share my finances that way, and I have plenty to be able to do that. And what occurred? Well, I actually got a little tighter with my budget, and I became more aware of where I was wasting money, which allowed me to do that. So consciousness shifted in that regard. So this is how we want to start thinking about things. And for the month of May, I want to recommend that you only choose 2 specific ways that you want to change. Only 2. Because you want to be able to see the changes as they occur. If you pick too many, then it gets kind of confusing. And the better you get at this, the easier it becomes. And then if you want to do 5 different thought patterns you want to change, or 5 different states of consciousness you want to get a handle on, that's fine later when you've got more skill at it. But for now, for May, just 2. Now, what you have to be aware of is that when you are doing this process, can you really see yourself making that change? Meaning, is it really worth it for you? Some people, believe it or not, really enjoy having something to complain about. I'm one of those people. I always tell people, if I don't have something to be cranky about, I'm going to be cranky. Just because the way my consciousness has been for a long time is kind of snarky and easily irritated by other people. So relatives would tell me, well, you must like it. And in time I realized that must be true. So what I had to do is I had to realize it's more important for me to be at peace and to be in good, positive relationships with other people than it is for me to have a reason to be irritated by others or a reason to criticize others. And when I was able to really believe in and acknowledge that reason, the change actually occurred. So you have to be very honest with yourself about, can you actually make this change? Can you actually believe that this change can be real for you? And do you really want it? It's easy to say, I want to see the whole world in peace and the whole world as love. Well, that might not require that the world actually becomes love or peace. It might be that you yourself have to be at peace with the world. And are you willing to do that? Or do you prefer to throw a fit that there's war in the world or people get mistreated? Now, if you can do something about those things, great. But if not, the change has to come from within. Again, Ramana Maharshi, this might also be in Vasista's Yoga, he would say it's better to put on shoes rather than to try to cover the whole world with leather. Because when you put on shoes, no matter where you go, the world is covered with leather. It's the same kind of thing. A lot of these changes actually have to come within rather than looking to change an external situation. Now, you want to continue in this process until it's done. Meaning, very similar to when we were talking about body care and financial well-being and emotional health and contemplation, you don't want to just say, I'm going to do a little bit of it. You need to continue making the change until it's done. Meaning, if I want to have more loving thoughts about other people, I have to continuously be on top of that until it's natural. Then I don't have to worry about it anymore. This might take a little bit every day. And again, what do I recommend? Regular self-assessment. Pay attention to how you feel, how you're thinking. Decide today I'm going to focus on changing this thought or this expectation. Stick with it as best you can without getting frustrated if it doesn't work out as easy as you think it should. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes, playing a musical instrument. You have days where you play really, really well. It feels fantastic. You've done a great job. There are other days where you play like crap, but you practiced at least. So the idea is not to be perfect about it, but to be consistent about it. And again, at the end of a meditation, 4 minutes a day, decide, how do you want to think, feel, or be differently? How do you want to master your consciousness today? Set that intention, write it down, recite it to yourself as an affirmation until it feels true, or at least believable or possible. And you do that until the change finally occurs. So for the month of May, your goal for the first 2 weeks is to have a journal and pay attention to, how do you think about yourself? How do you think about others? What are repetitive experiences you have, repetitive expectations? And once you get all those written down, the next half of May, now you're going to sit down and decide to consciously change these things as best you can, and committing to doing it, at least 2 of them, for as long as it takes. And you want to look for the changes. You got to remember, you find what you're looking for. So if you're looking for someone to argue with, then you're going to find that. If you're looking for someone to have a good conversation with, to share a smile with, you say, oh, maybe I'll see that today. You're going to find it. It's very similar to, I don't know if you've ever been interested in a particular kind of car, for example. And here in the U.S., cars are everywhere. In a lot of countries, that's true. But you're interested in a particular car, and now all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. Well, how did that happen? You just become more aware of it. So essentially, we are changing our perception. We're changing our direction of what we want to see, what we want to experience, and what we want to expect within the world. Okay, so give this a shot and realize that this, too, is part of your Kriya practice. And if you can start doing this and seeing this for your mundane life and your spiritual life, considering all of these principles, you'll start to understand that the spiritual master is a master of their consciousness. And you too can do that. It just takes practice, it takes awareness, it takes commitment, like anything else. And you need to continue until it's done. So you don't want to be saying to yourself, well, I'll go for this long, and if it works, then great. You want to say, no, I'm going until it's done. Then you become a master. No one knows, you're just yourself, but internally, you're a master of your consciousness. You're clear, you're awake, you're internally free, which is what we're aiming for. Once you're internally free, you can contemplate better, you can pray better. So your spiritual life becomes more active, more responsive. It becomes like a living, breathing relationship that you have, versus things that you read on a page, or things that you've heard other people talk about, where you wish your life would be like that, spiritually speaking. It actually becomes alive when you start to engage these processes. Okay, so be well, enjoy the rest of your month, and we'll be in touch soon. And if this was helpful for you, don't forget to hit the like button on this video, and feel free to share this with any of your friends that are interested in meditation, contemplation, or spiritual realization.